What's up, guys? And welcome back to This Just In, our second iteration of this story where we are telling you about all the new and awesome things that are into the Freakopolis Geekery each and every week. As we said last week, they know, some of you know anyways, we are a comic shop, and as such we get a new product every single week. But this week we have a bunch of awesome games and things, not necessarily...
Yeah, we kind of hit the inventory across the board this week.
Yeah, exactly.
For various reasons, so pretty exciting collection of stuff.
Yeah, so we're glad to be back, glad to have you guys joining us. If you want, you can like, share, subscribe, comment, any of the above, so that you can tell your friends you know what's good in geekdom this week. So let's get right into it. We've got some really cool stuff coming up. Of course, D&D, one of our favorite games of all time, really, now has its 5th edition, and we are restocking the Monster Manual. Been a big hit, one of the big 3 books for D&D. Glad to have it in stock.
Yeah, the cool thing about the Monster Manual, of course, is, I mean, we've had a number of people come in and actually buy that book. They're currently not even playing D&D right now, but it's just such a fun read to read about, you know, these insane creatures that you can encounter in the world of D&D. So people love it. I know I've gone to sleep reading that book many times, and so have these guys. So, you know, it's just an awesome read and an awesome supplement to anybody who's playing 5th edition D&D.
Yeah, tons of awesome art and lore. Just a really good read. Feels good in the hands. Super cool book. And speaking of awesome lore, we get a little addition to the Adventures in Middle-earth series this week with Adventures in Middle-earth, Wonderland Adventures. So this is a D&D supplement that takes place in J.R.R. Tolkien's, of course, beloved Middle-earth. Really solid book. They now have the Lore Master's Guide, the Player's Guide, which introduces new races and classes.
Yeah, I mean, what's really cool about this book, too, is, I mean, it's no surprise to everybody that D&D itself is founded in J.R.R. Tolkien's Middle-earth. I mean, you know, when it was originally created, they were looking at Middle-earth and saying, how could we play there? How could we explore there? How could we do, you know, role-playing games there? This particular version of it, though, actually takes exactly that. So where in regular D&D you're playing, for instance, a ranger, in Middle-earth you're playing a Dunedain ranger just like Aragorn was, you know. You're going to the actual locations in Middle-earth, where in regular D&D you might be going to a volcano that's known for its particular evil, and in Middle-earth, in the Middle-earth version, you're actually going to Mount Doom and, you know, potentially destroying the One Ring.
Yeah, these are super cool source books for Adventures in Middle-earth. This one in particular contains 7 ready-to-play adventures built within the Wilderlands, which is this huge portion of Middle-earth that is really wild, has a ton of enemies involved, and should really test the strength of your characters. So, super cool book. Love to get some more source material for this world, and another book that's just like awesome to read through just for the lore and information and art, really. So I'm super excited about this for sure.
Right, we're bringing these Middle-earth books in as they get printed and made available. We've got the first 3 available now here in the store, and there's, you know, each time that a new one comes out, we have it immediately that week, because we've got some people that just are looking for these to come out, and they come in that week and grab them. They're just awesome. We love them.
Yeah, absolutely. Super exciting. But let's move on to some comics, since it is a comic shop, and every week we're getting new comics. We'll start off with a big week from DC Comics. First up, Batman Beyond. I really love this book. I grew up with the cartoon. Now it's in print form. This latest arc, The Demon's Fist, has been really exciting. Sort of lots of twists and turns from older Batman lore that are now tying into Terry McGinnis's life as Batman, and the threat is very high, but I'm really enjoying this. It's been a strong entry to the DC Rebirth stuff, I think.
Right, and after that we've got Action Comics and Detective Comics, which always come out on the same week, which is really cool because these are 2 of DC's. Action Comics is, of course, sort of the original Superman book, and Detective Comics is the original Batman book. When they did the whole Rebirth event in DC, they renumbered pretty much all of the titles and brought them back to number 1. Action Comics and Detective Comics escaped that fate. and they're both at 950 plus. So that it just goes to show with such high numbers how long they've been continuously publishing those titles.
Yeah, it's super cool to see them closing in on those 1,000 issues. I'm sure that'll be a huge deal, but in the meantime, Action Comics has a really cool arc coming up. Mr. Oz expounding on some of that mystery that we've had since DC Rebirth first began, and also coming out with some really cool covers, those lenticulars that have been so awesome in the past couple months.
They're doing a whole series of those coming up soon. I think maybe next month is the beginning of it.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, this whole Mr. Oz series, of all the unlikely sort of partners for Superman to have against this, against the current villains that he's fighting, is, of course, Lex Luthor. So Lex Luthor has Superman, I guess, scratching his head yet again. Why is Lex acting like a good guy? Why is Lex helping Superman out? We don't have the answer to that yet, but it should be interesting. And I know a lot of stuff gets revealed from this whole Mr. Oz series.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if Lex Luthor has something up his sleeve, but very excited for the next few issues of Action Comics for sure. And like Dad said, always cool that they come out on the same week, with Superman and Batman coming out on the same week. You really can't go wrong. We'll move on to one of the very cool, I would say, dames of DC, Harley Quinn, who continues to have an awesome book where she actually is, sort of being the good guy. Which is cool.
Yeah, she's kind of constantly, for one reason or another, she ends up sort of defending her corner of the city, Gotham City, and she's always sort of brought back into that good guy role. I think internally she struggles with that sometimes, but she's come forward and sort of shined as a major DC femme fatale these days. I know that there's a new upcoming very soon this fall. There's a HeroClix series coming out that's focused on Harley. So she's a big deal in their universe right now.
Yeah, definitely.
I saw today that there's a Joker Harley Quinn movie going to be coming out. The deal's almost done on that one. So Harley's just, she's tearing it up across the board, across print and games and movies and everything else.
Good stuff, and of course she is also featured in Suicide Squad, which has an awesome cover this week. I'm not quite sure who that villain is, but he's got a great look, very exciting. And of course Amanda Waller has things that play sort of like Lex Luthor, sort of playing both sides.
Yeah, Amanda Waller, she's a weird sort of covert government operative. She's building all of these teams similar to the Suicide Squad, probably all with bombs in their heads, set to blow if they don't do what she says. And then she pits them against each other, against the Suicide Squad, against the Justice League. So you never can quite tell what she's going to do with these operatives that she's forming and sort of forcing to work for her in these black ops kind of ways.
But a pretty clean-cut team, the Teen Titans, came out with a new issue this week. It's sort of at the peak of its arc right now, dealing with Aqualad's sort of beginnings and who he is and what he's meant to be. The Teen Titans, in the meantime, are facing down with someone very close to Aqualad, let's say, Black Manta, who's one of my favorite DC villains. I think he's got such a great costume. It's super cool. And yeah, they're hopefully things are really heating up for them now, and we'll probably see a new arc out of them very shortly. But that's been on my pull list since issue number 1. Really enjoying that book. And of course, The Flash, rounding out DC Comics for this week, who is struggling with some internal things as they lead up to an event for him as well.
Yeah, and he's definitely going to be he's got his own special events going on in his series, and he's going to be overlapping with the new Dark Knight's Metal kind of cross the DC Universe event that's going on. So he's got a lot going on that ties him in a number of different ways to the DC Universe. And Dark Knight's Metal, no particular books out this particular week from DC regarding that, but definitely it's kind of lingering in the background of every one of these books.
Yeah, and they'll start just coming out every week in the next couple of months. So very exciting. I love the first issue, like we said last week, and those tie-ins will be really cool too.
Yeah,
so.
I know Flash and Suicide Squad both have issues devoted to Dark Knight's Metal coming up. Probably some of these other ones as well.
Nice. Very exciting. So what do we got next?
The Dark Horse books.
Yeah, a great little bunch of Dark Horse books came in this week that are very exciting. Lady Killer, sort of this suburban thriller housewife, super loving, wonderful young housewife who is also a contract killer.
Right. It's a pretty dark book, really.
Yeah.
You can tell from the cover. There's some blood splatter going on there. When Lady Killer kills somebody, it's not always a very clean scenario. But being the housewife that she is, she's excellent at putting on the rubber gloves, getting out the mop, and tidying things up.
Yeah, and we also have a book by Matt Kint and Dark Horse, Department H, or Depth, as you might call it. There seems to be some argument, but I like to call it Department H. Yeah, super cool book. This is Volume 1, a restock for us. They're up to most of the way through Volume 3 now. We have Volume 1 and 2, as well as the floppies for 3 in stock. A super cool book about a murder mystery, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea sort of thing. Wonderful watercolor art, as Matt Kint is really... he really loves that style, and it shows in this book. Super cool book. And then another book by one of our favorite writers, as we've said before, and this was on my good from The Good, the Bad, and the Freaky this week, is Rebels by Brian Wood, of course with Dark Horse. And it tells the story of the Green Mountain Boys in the American Revolution hundreds of years ago in Vermont, sort of right in our backyard, so it's really close to home for us at Freakopolis. But it's not necessarily the famous guys you've heard of. It's more of at the ground level, the guys that had the boots on the ground and sort of their stake in the game. Their family, their land, their ownership was all at stake here. And they took the fight to England, which was super cool. It's been a great read so far. Mentions a lot of local history to us, like Fort Ticonderoga, Fort Edward, Fort Anne. A lot of these local places that we grew up living right down the street from. So super cool for us, for sure.
Right, and we should point out these books they're all sort of collected editions. They all carry a complete arc of the story. There were originally usually 5 or 6 issues of a comic. But these are sort of soft-cover books, super high-quality paper and print, no ads, just read really great. The Department H book is a hardcover as well. Lady Killer and Rebels are both soft covers, fantastic material quality, great to hold and read, and really, really enjoyable titles.
Yeah, it's good stuff. What do we got next? Ooh, new indie comics. Definitely some indie comics this week. We got some Boom, we have some Archie, some Valiant. But we'll start off with Boom Studios' Lumberjanes. This is an awesome all-ages book, especially for young women. That's sort of the protagonist of this book. These young women are at summer camp, but there's a lot of weird sort of sci-fi stuff going on as well.
Yeah, I mean, it gets into, time travel devices and more. So you can, and they all have their own sort of styles and motivations and skills. And so each one of them is an individual and interesting character. And so there's, really, really fun adventures. And as TJ said, all ages. So, perfect for parents that are looking for a title for their kids or to read with their kids, which we always encourage. And so a really, really nice book from Boom. We've wanted to have this book here in the shop since they started putting it out. This is starting a new arc. We figured it was a good time to bring it in and try it out and see if anybody was interested in sort of making that part of their monthly shopping list.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. So we have a book from Archie Comics. Up next, of course, Riverdale, sort of set in the same universe as the CW's Riverdale, the TV show that sort of took the world by storm this year, featuring Archie, Veronica, Betty, but this particular issue features
Reggie Mantle. Yeah.
Reggie Mantle.
Yeah, that's Archie's nemesis. He always seems to be trying to foil Archie at something, whether it's dating Veronica or dating Betty or
dating Josie in this one.
Being the high school football captain, whatever it is. Reggie's always kind of trying to throw in a monkey wrench. And in this particular issue, I know he's He's trying to get a date with Josie of Josie and the Pussycats fame, Riverdale's local music group that everybody loves, and plays all of the events at the high school and all of the events at Pop Soda Shop and all of that. So Reggie wants to date their lead singer and songwriter, and it kind of goes through him trying to woo her with his charms.
This has been a really fun book that delves into sort of the ancillary characters of the TV show, but maintains that very millennial, sort of mysterious and dark vibe that the TV show has as well. We got one about Kevin, Betty's good friend, who happens to be gay, in the last issue, as well as we've had some others of these characters that don't get a ton of screen time, but we get to learn a little bit more about them through the pages of Riverdale, which has been on my pull list again since it started. I was a sucker for the show. I'm a sucker for the comic. It's been really good.
Right, in the same way that Riverdale sort of expounds on characters and takes a deeper dive into the individual characters from the show, the WWE comic book is a very similar thing. People would wonder sometimes, how can that be a comic book? And it's about wrestling and wrestlers, but if anybody's ever watched any wrestling or wrestlers, especially the WWE, they really have this sort of interesting, fictional, soap opera-esque stuff going on that takes place backstage in order to build rivalries between wrestlers and to make, those sort of matches that finally take place in the ring be a lot more interesting and exciting because you've chosen one side or the other that you'd like to see win. And so what this title does as a comic is sort of take that fiction to the next level and spend a lot of time, both backstage and then out in the real world in the lives of these characters, living out these sort of amazing drama that takes place in their world.
Yeah, very cool. So you get to see the fiction that's happening outside of the ring. These characters continue to live on. Their storylines have impact on their world at large, and then of course you get some awesome fighting panels as well. Good stuff from Boom Studios. They're putting out some great books. Very excited about them. Speaking of great books, Shirtless Bear Fighter, a newish Image book. This is issue number 3. Which sort of exploded onto the scene. They have a great social media account that's hilarious, and 3 just continued to live up to that. It's one of my favorite books right now. It's super funny. It involves, it pretty much says it all in the title, a shirtless man who's fighting bears. But in issue 3, we get to see a little more of that world at large. Why necessarily these bears seem to be working together, and it gets pretty personal for Shirtless, as they call him in the book. But yeah, it continues to be just a riot. Really enjoying that book, and I'm super happy for the guys that putting it together.
Yeah, and they pull a lot of things in to it that government agencies involved, and I don't know, Black Ops Park Rangers or something getting involved. It's crazy. It's a wild ride. People that are reading it just seem to love it.
We'll move on to one of the most exciting Valiant books that I think is coming out right now. This is X-O Manowar. Of course, this is a rebooted series. They're now a few issues in, but this arc has just been amazing. It's another Matt Kindt book, which, of course, as I've said, really enjoying the work he's doing. And the art in this is just stunning. It's one of the most beautifully drawn books I've ever seen. And it continues to be some of the best science fantasy. I would sort of put it in that realm on the shelves these days. Yeah, really good stuff.
Super great art style in there, and it's just consistent. Every month after month, both the covers, the material, the interior art, and the writing, all top-notch.
Very good stuff. What else we got? One of our favorites, Marvel Comics. These are all really great books. Coming out from them this week. Daredevil in particular, a Charles Soule book, who we talked a bit about last week, and this just in. This week is sort of the end of this arc for Daredevil, where Matt Murdock is taking a case to the Supreme Court. Of course, there's members in the villain community who aren't a huge fan of that. But Charles Soule himself is actually a lawyer, so he's able to make a really compelling, sort of factual story out of this, which might have an impact in the Marvel world at large. At least that's the hope for Matt Murdock. We get to find out the decision on this really landmark case where Matt Murdock is attempting to have be able to have superheroes be sort of confidential informants or witnesses on the stand of the people that they sort of bring to the police. So super cool sort of philosophical arc, which is now leading into another really cool arc. This has been one of my top picks since we opened. I'm loving what Charles Soule does with Daredevil. Just a super cool book. We also have Cable number 4. I've heard a lot of really good things about this book. It's cool that we finally get a Cable book where there's some real time travel going on. Sometimes they're just like, hey, Cable's here, he's back from the future, or whatever. But this time, he's actually, you see him jumping and moving through time, which is really exciting. He's fighting ninjas and cowboys and all sorts of really crazy genre characters. So it's been a great read so far.
Right. Cable's an incredibly popular character that's shown up time and again, sort of originated from the X-Men, Scott Summers' son from an alternate future. So Cyclops' son, he's got a cybernetic arm, and he time travels. And he also is Deadpool's best friend. So he's he knows a whole lot of the different people in the Marvel universe, and this title is kind of moving toward. I know he's one of the first ones to get the new Marvel Legacy numbering. So Cable 150 is going to be coming out soon, even though we're on Cable number 4 right now.
But it's very exciting. Of course, Josh Brolin will be playing Cable in Deadpool 2, so this is a good chance to get caught up and get a sense of who that character is. I'm very excited for his take on it, and this is a great place to jump in for sure. We also have another sort of all-ages book that's been super fun, amazingly vibrant, beautiful art, I Am Groot, which of course follows baby Groot through his adventures around the galaxy, which have just been a raucous trip through some really weird planets, and it's been super fun so far.
Right, I know in this particular issue, he's kind of on a planet. He's sort of stuck on a planet, and he wants to get back to the Guardians and their ship, but he has to make a choice on whether or not to destroy the entire planet in order to accomplish that. So Groot can find himself in some pretty galactic situations. So I'm not sure how it works out, whether or not he makes it back and whether or not he has to destroy the planet. That's yet to be seen.
I certainly hope he makes it back. Based on what we saw out of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, the movie earlier this year, he was real close to pushing that button. So we'll have to see. He might have it in him to just blow the whole thing up.
That's right.
Of course, Spectacular Spider-Man, Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man number 3 also hit the shelves this week. A super fun, sort of half and half lighthearted and serious Spider-Man adventure involved in this book. Chip Zdarsky has a great eye for really cool cameos. We get Karnak in this one, a bit of the Tinkerer. So there's a huge cast in this.
We can see Wilson Fisk.
Of course, the Kingpin.
The Kingpin on the cover.
On the cover, and you get a really great sort of action set piece in the back half of this book. It was my staff pick of the week. I'm really enjoying this book. It feels like what Spider-Man really should be, and sort of back to its roots of Amazing Spider-Man. Super enjoyable, and he's just such a goof, man. I really liked it. X-Men Gold, another book, sort of moved on now from Secret Empire. It's now into its own arc where Kitty Pryde is testifying to Congress on whether or not mutants should be deported from America. So it's very topical and political, of course, but somebody needs to sort of take the reins, if you were, and interrupt that whole proceeding. And who better to do that than Whiplash, who showed up in the last issue and sort of got handily beat after Colossus refound his ability to turn into metal, but he was not out of the ring just yet and is back as Omega Red. I think he's sort of got this grudge going on against the current X-Men lineup, so we'll see a bit more of him and some awesome action in this issue. Very exciting.
And one more sort of book that we've got going on. We've been waiting for a while for this to come in, the new Rick and Morty official coloring book.
Yeah, very exciting for Rick and Morty official coloring book. As Dad said, we've been waiting for this for a while. I think it's a perfect sort of cartoon for this. We've seen Bob's Burgers. Now we get Rick and Morty, and there's a ton of wacky, crazy, very complex coloring pages throughout this book. I love this series, and for any of you colorists out there, I think this is a great addition, especially if you're a fan of the television show. Super fun.
Yeah, the show, while it seems to have, often it has very simple art style. The characters themselves are quite simple. Often when they're in the house or something, it's a very simple, living room set or garage. But if you watch the show, you know that it'll often break out into either, space travel or interdimensional travel that involves, crazy artwork sequences, crazy animation sequences, and those are represented really well in this book. There is some super complex pages. I flipped through it and I was like, whoa, yeah, I forgot. There was, some really crazy interdimensional stuff. Lots of great opportunities to really bust out the colors.
Yeah, this book is just packed with crazy sci-fi, intergalactic wonder to color. Super cool. I'm glad it's finally here. I know some of you will be very excited about that.
So now we've covered comics and sort of books across the board, but we're not just a comic or book shop. We got a lot of other stuff here, and like for example, the new Ironheart statue came in. Ironheart being a sort of an alternate version of Iron Man. It's a young female who has her own Iron Man level armor. This statue is really slick. A great action pose. You can see she's sort of taking off and flying off of a high-tech sort of base that is used to kind of mount the statue. But she's ready for action. She's got her boot jets going. It looks like she got her repulsors in her wrists ready to go there.
These Marvel Gallery statues are a super great value. They're like $44.99.
Yeah.
They're one of the coolest things I think in the shop. They're at a great size, like I just showed. It's probably 12 inches or so, 14 inches. Super excited to see Ironheart getting her own. Riri Williams has been a really cool addition, I think, to the Marvel Universe since Invincible Iron Man of last year. Now she has her own book, and she's just got a ton of style and class, and a super cool young woman that is now taking the Marvel Universe by storm. Very excited for her to have her own Marvel Gallery statue.
Yeah, these Marvel Gallery pieces, we just really love them. We've got a number of them here in the shop. You can come in and check them out. They're just awesome to look at. The price is just right. We've got a number of different statues here in the shop. Many of them are quite a bit more expensive than these, but these just really deliver sort of, the level of quality for the price that they're at is just amazing.
Yeah, I think we have Phoenix, Ironheart, Spider-Man now. We'll keep looking to get in more as you guys enjoy them. So, good stuff. That's just one of our non-book type things this week. We have some more stuff coming up right now. Oh, yeah. Of course, the ever-popular Funko Pops are in. We get a couple new ones this week. Rocket Raccoon from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. That's a great sculpt. I love that they sort of take that Funko Pop sort of base sculpture and mold it into really looking like Rocket Raccoon. Super cool. I love those things, man. I might have to pick this one up myself because I'm a big Rocket fan. Speaking of something I might have to pick up myself, this Rick and Morty Funko Pop keychain. It's so cute and small and tiny. I love these things. We've had a Morty in for a couple weeks. We now have Rick. Of course, Rick has his signature flask and unibrow. He's on a keychain, so you can just tie him right to that belt and let everybody know you're a huge Rick and Morty fan. I love these things.
Right, he's got that Funko Pop style, but in sort of keychain size. Really excellent little piece. Really great for the people that like Rick and Morty. You can come in here, you can grab one of these, and get that coloring book while you're here.
Yeah, some good Rick and Morty stuff this week.
All right, so game-wise...
Yeah. Uh-oh, monsters. This is an addition to No Thank You Evil, which was a really cool role-playing game that came out for sort of all ages, sort of late last year. And they now have, this is the second expansion. They had Story Please earlier this year, and now Uh-Oh Monsters was just released. And it gives you a whole ton of monsters, as I understand.
Right. We love this title because it's designed for ages 5 and up. So if for families that, like, for instance, if you grew up playing role-playing games, playing D&D or Savage Worlds, and now you've got kids of your own and you want to start moving them towards being able to play these RPGs, that's No Thank You Evil is the perfect game to get going with. It's got the lowest starting point. You basically play out kind of Saturday morning cartoons, and these expansions make it so that you can just pick it up and play it. Between the Uh-Oh Monsters, which is both adventures and settings, as well as Story Please, which is additional story cards. It just makes it so simple, and that was the challenge that anybody had, where if they just got No Thank You Evil, they might have felt a little bit challenged at creating a setting and populating it with monsters that could, be the adversaries for the players. So this takes care of all of that, and just makes it easy to get into and play the game.
Yeah, I'm sure if this was around when I was growing up or Ian was growing up, you would have picked one up and had us role-playing. We were role-playing anyways, but this would have been super fun to have around the table growing up. I'm sure your kids will love it. And I know a number of our regular role-players have really enjoyed picking it up and checking it out as well. So glad to see a new add-on for it, for sure.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, now Wonderland, the board game. You get to play as Alice, of course, from Alice in Wonderland. And it's created by Zenescope, who does the comics, as I understand, right?
Right, and so they have their own spin on the whole Wonderland universe. And so this is a sort of recreation of that in a game form. You basically play of several different characters, and you kind of move between the real world and Wonderland in order to locate specific items in order to win the game. But it's all populated by their own versions of the Wonderland characters. And, if you've read either Grimm's fairy tales or any of their Wonderland books, you know that it gets, it's a fairly dark and, a little bit of a twisted world, which is appropriate to Wonderland. So a really neat take on that sort of universe, and we wanted to have that here in the store and available to fans of Zenescope's works.
Absolutely. So what's up next?
Well, we brought in a lot of stuff this week. And a lot of stuff that we brought in was specific because we were going to be spending some time this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at Trekonderoga, up in Condoroka.
That's right. Starting tomorrow, Dad and I will be up there throughout all 3 days of Trekonderoga as the premier vendors there. And we wanted to actually bring, some awesome stuff. So we got in a bunch of stuff this week. We already had a ton of cool stuff.
We had a ton of Star Trek stuff in the store already, but we decided we really wanted to have some more variety to show up there, and to, there's a lot of fans of Star Trek that'll be visiting during Trekonderoga, and we wanted to make sure that they saw something maybe new or that they hadn't seen before, and had an opportunity to get that.
That's right. So in addition to our coloring books and games and Funkos, and especially Star Trek Attack Wing, which Jim Yeager will be demoing on Saturday up in Trekonderoga, we brought in some of this stuff. Yes, like some more tabletop games. Very exciting. I know Frontiers specifically is a hefty little box. Super cool. It's got a great art style. I imagine it plays out very well. Like a 5-year mission might.
Right. This particular box involves a lot of miniatures and maps and that sort of thing. So I can't really get the light off of it. But it shows there's a lot of individual pieces to this. This game is produced by WizKids. WizKids is one of our favorite manufacturers of games. They make HeroClix, and HeroClix is one of our most important games here in the shop. So an excellent game. It has excellent reviews. People seem to love Star Trek Frontiers. That involves using a different one of, I believe, 5 different ships to explore an unknown area of space.
Can't get much more Star Trek than that.
Right.
Except for maybe this game, which is a little lighter fare. Co-op gameplay. That is, of course, Star Trek The 5-Year Mission. which lets you play either in the Next Generation timeline or in the original series timeline. It's for 3 to 7 crewmates, as they say. It's co-op gameplay, 45 minutes, so super easy to sit down, get a game in, have a good time. Very excited to see this. We have a demo copy, and we have a few copies in stock for sale this weekend and beyond.
Right, and we were able to get some really cool promotional cards. So what happens is, in the 5-year mission game, you choose either the original Enterprise or the Next Generation Enterprise, and then you populate it with crew members, and then you sort of there's the ship will get set into alert modes, the standard red alert sort of thing that goes on in the ship of the Enterprise, and you have to solve those alerts using the skills and capabilities of the crew members that you choose to bring along. So we got some special promo cards. This one is Janice Rand. Janice Rand is from the original series, and then on the other side is Wesley Crusher from the Next Generation. And people who buy this 5-year mission game from us this weekend will be able to get one of these characters, which you can't otherwise get.
I love, Wesley Crusher's ability. So they each have sort of special abilities. After rolling, exchange one die with one die from the pool. Roll it before placement. If all crews say, "Shut up, Wesley," you can exchange 2 dice. So very sort of comical and in line with the history of Star Trek. Very excited to pop open this demo copy and see you guys at Star Trek Trekonderoga this weekend. Of course, games are not enough to meet the demand that we'll see. We also got some Star Trek in print this week. I am very excited for, personally, the Red Shirt's Book of Doom, which is sort of almost children's book. It's got this really cartoony art style, super fun, hardcover. Very excited about that myself.
It pokes a lot of good-natured fun at all of the tropes and sort of things that we commonly see happen in Star Trek. They just, poke a lot of fun at it and develop some laughs in a cartoony kind of style. It looks like a great little book.
Yeah, absolutely. We also have the Star Trek The Visual Dictionary, which is a compendium of information and photos from throughout Star Trek history, telling you all you need to know to win that trivia night.
Yeah, it's a beautiful and affordable hardcover book, nice large size, sort of coffee table book, and it has beautiful photographs of everything important from Star Trek, be it the ships, the equipment, the characters, and then it details them and gives you all kinds of extra tidbits of information that you might not have known, and details the sizes of things and comparative information.
We also have Star Trek, the official shipbuilding companion, right?
Yeah, it's designing starships, and it's sort of it takes the angle of both designing starships sort of as props, but and how those starships would really be designed. This could be an Elon Musk book sometime in the future. Especially given that spacesuit that we saw of his this past week on The Good, the Bad, and the Freaky. This designing starships is a sort of a technical manual of putting together starships like they did for Star Trek. So, there were some really, really smart people that designed those the ships that we saw in Star Trek, and this is represented in this book.
Yeah, it's a really cool way to meld both the sort of fictional nature of these starships that are flying throughout the galaxy for years at a time, and the reality of having to build the models and create something that looks believable and stuff. So that's a really insightful, cool read for sure. We also have Star Trek Mad Libs. We love Mad Libs. We've done them on live streams before. We continually do them in car rides and when we're waiting around for our role-playing members to show up. And Star Trek is a perfect opportunity for Mad Libs, I think.
Yeah, we have a ton of people that come in and pick up Mad Libs here. We try to make sure that we both have science fiction and superhero Mad Libs available here in the shop because we know families love it. It's great for even outside around the fire or whatever in the evening at the camp. Mad Libs is just a blast. You can't play that game without laughing like crazy.
It's not possible.
It's not possible. It's going to happen. And they're very, very affordable. I think they're around $5 to get a book of Mad Libs, and just a ton of fun for anybody doing them.
Yeah, we're bringing up a bunch of those. Fun for the whole family. Hopefully, maybe we can do a couple while we're there. That would be super fun. Of course, we also we wouldn't be a comic shop if we didn't bring in some of the Star Trek comics. These are Star Trek, the original series. Really thick, nice book. This is the IDW series, who I love all their Star Trek works. The art in this is incredible. Really enjoyable. A nice addition to the canon on the whole. Super good stuff.
Yeah, it's a big fat collected edition of the original series related comics. So really perfect for the sets that they've recreated at the Star Trek original series set tour. Obviously, are the original series sets. So it falls well in line with Kirk and Spock and those guys, and that's what these comics feature.
Absolutely. Yes, we love our glassware here, and this is a super cool set. It includes two pint glasses, one having the Next Generation costumes sort of engraved on it, and the other having the original series costumes. So super cool.
Yeah, and they're kind of informative as well, so that anybody drinking from these glasses is going to check out all the way around them, because it'll tell you, for instance, how to read, this is the captain's costume, or this is a lieutenant's costume, or a yeoman's costume, and what they would have on it, and what the insignias mean, that sort of thing. It's all detailed right on the glass, so lots of fun. Pour yourself a cold one, and read a little bit about some cool Star Trek stuff.
Very cool. Yes, these are very exciting. So this is both, of course, as many of you Trekkies would recognize, the phaser and the communicator from the original series. These are high-quality replicas. We have a bunch in stock that we'll be bringing up to Trekonderoga this weekend. They're super cool. They both have buttons that enable them to either do sound effects or lines from the show, as the communicator does. I love these things, man. They look great. They sound awesome.
Yeah, I'm really hoping some people pick them up before going on the set tour, so that they can get their photographs of themselves, standing on the transporter platform, holding their communicator or holding their phaser at the ready to be beamed down and deal with whatever threat is on the planet they're going to beam down to. So overall, it'd be a really nice way to detail those photographs, and just look at this. People will come in costume this weekend anyways, doing the Star Trek cosplay kind of thing. This would be a great way to add to it and make it, totally complete.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that does it for our This Just In, Episode 2. As you saw, we had a bunch of stuff come in this weekend. I hope you saw something that interests you. I know there's a bunch of stuff that I really loved in there. I hope you found something too. If you could, or you feel like it, like, share, subscribe, comment, any of the above. Help us to keep making these, keep getting things in, keep letting you know about the new cool stuff in geekdom. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Bye now.